state and the president of our nation, Baba Obasanjo, will have spoken. Wait. But he said, no, I'm going to be speaking at the dinner tonight. So if you want to hear Baba Obasanjo speak, come to the dinner. But he has asked that our own uncle, His Excellency, President Goodluck, Ebele, Jonathan, to speak at this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Because of the time, I may not go through the whole protocol list, but let me especially appreciate our dear President, who is here represented by our dear First Lady, Her Excellency Senator Oluremi Tinubu. Thank you for coming. And let us appreciate the celebrant, General Yakubu Gowon, and the dear wife, our Queen, Victoria Gowon. Let me also appreciate our father, Baba Olusegun Obasanjo. He was to speak, but not to keep you here for too long. He said I should speak on behalf of the former president here. He will speak on behalf of the former president during the dinner. Let me appreciate my dear wife, Mrs. President Jonathan, that is here with us. And let me appreciate the former vice president and the wife that just spoke, the Secretary of Government, Senator Kume, and the immediate Secretary of Government, my dear friend, the boss Mustafa. There are so many, our clergymen, all the clergymen here are qualified to be mentioned individually because you know them, they are very eminent and revered men of God. But to save time, dear clergymen, thank you for coming to preside over this ceremony. Among us here are serving and former governors, serving and former members of the National Assembly, serving and former ministers, diplomats, traditional rulers, religious leaders, and other senior dignitaries. I don't need to bore you. But whenever we talk about former governors, let me especially appreciate the former governors that served under General Yakubu Gowon. My own former governor is here. He was the governor of the old River State at the age of 28. But now he's a king. King Alfred Papa Priye de Tespiv, the Amainabo of Tuambras. And well, when somebody like me, just like the dear Reverend Dr. Ben Kwasi said, we are all old, but when I'm asked to speak about Gowon, it is something that like carrying a load too heavy for you. When Gowon became head of state during the January 1996 coup, I was in primary 4 in St. Michael's School, Primary School, Oloibri. So what will I know about such a person? There was no social media at that time. In the rural areas, there are no televisions. Even in the village, you may not have more than 2 radios. But the clergy did wonderfully well, and the former vice president too have done very well. So my duty is only to concur. General Yakubu Gowon is a wonderful man. We have leaders and we have leaders. And when conditions are optimal, anybody can be a leader. When things are good, anybody can be a leader, and you will be happy. But under challenging situations, that is when you differentiate the leaders that God has given them that art of leadership and the leaders that are just placed there to do whatever they like. Gowon, as a very young officer then, at the age of about 32, was the head of state of this country. Took over after a coup. Then later on the Civil War. And under that kind of situation, in a complex country like Nigeria, in terms of tongue and religion, and a very young person, today we talked about not too young to run. He was head of state at the age of 32. So if he was not somebody that had a gift of leadership, I'm not sure Nigeria would have been one today. But he was totally committed. If you ask me to make maybe just one clause about Gowon, I will tell you that he's a peace ambassador par excellence. His leadership was focused on peace and unity. And then the slogan then was that to keep Nigeria one is the tax that must be done. And as children, when you hear that in the radio, after playing music and so on, they say to keep Nigeria one is the tax that must be done. Then they say, oh, should be, hey. Then that gave you courage that the country will not disintegrate. And that was his vision for leadership. And I'm happy that when I look at that side, I see the young youth corpers. Because Gowon believed that we must integrate the young people in Nigeria. And he founded the National Youth Service Corps. That is somebody who has the passion to put the country together. And just like the vice president did mention, that when he left, dropped the rifle and the bayonet, the instruments of war, he still picked the holy book, the Bible, with his foundation, the Nigeria Pray, to put Nigeria together, to pray for the peace of Nigeria. So Gowon is one of our leaders that deserve celebration anytime, anywhere. All we can do today is to thank God for bringing such a person at that time. As I grew up, because as I mentioned, when Gowon took over as the head of state, I was in primary 4 at St. Michael's School, Olobri. The year his government ended was the year I wrote my school start. So I cannot make much comment about that. But looking at his antecedents, and when I remember the activities of some military officers that also fought the war, I thank God. Because if some of them were to be the head of state of Nigeria, I think half of this country would have been burnt down. So in such occasion that we are before our Almighty Father, I have to join all of you, the priest, to thank God for bringing Gowon to lead us at that time. And we thank God for giving him long life, and we'll celebrate you more. Happy birthday General Yakubu Gowon. Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Excellency.